on Zoom, and then I will start Zencastr right now.
Okay.
2 seconds in, boo.
Sorry, we're in. And here we go. Okay. It's happening. Welcome to episode 8. What the school?
What the school is even going on around here?
What the school? If you are listening to this, you are probably experiencing some type of online learning, whether it is homeschool, schooling at home. You can't mix up those two terms, right, Nicole?
No, and
they are different.
They are. There's a huge difference. Like, if
Tell us the difference. What is the difference?
Well, here's the thing. If you are a distance learner right now, it's your first interaction you had maybe a little bit at the end of last year, but maybe you're like full on, they've committed, this is a thing, it's happening. Mm-hmm. There's a huge difference. Like, if you think this is what homeschool is like, it's not. We're suffering too. I'm a homeschooler. We are suffering too, because this is not at all what homeschooling looks like. So if you think, I could never do this, just know that there is a difference between what you're doing right now and homeschooling. There is a difference, and we need help too. This is not, we need that social interaction. In fact, I would say that as a homeschooler, one of my main motivators for homeschooling my kids, which is the opposite of what most people think homeschooling is about, it is for the social interaction. It is for the flexibility. It is for the right to go pick up and move or go have an outside activity or whatever. So, I think, and it's funny because Polly's coming here. She's learned, Polly, you never thought that we'd be having an episode like this, which we would have had an episode about schooling at home or homeschooling, regardless of the state of our affairs. But you are actually coming to this podcast with some experience.
I was homeschooled.
Wait, what?
Do you know that about me?
Holy cow.
No, is your mind blown right now?
You guys, this is live happening right now. Nicole's mind is blown. And now your aversion or no desire to do homeschool can make total sense to me, even without knowing your experience. The fact that you had a homeschool experience helps me understand why you would be averted to it.
Well, and I'm not averted to it, and I've thought about it. But yeah, I mean, homeschooling is obviously going to be so different from online learning. So we're doing online learning with my kiddo. Nicole homeschools her kids. And so it's obviously very different, right? So like homeschool, you kind of get to choose your curriculum, and there's a lot of freedom there. Yes. But because there's a lot of freedom, you might lack some structure. And so we're hoping to give some structure there. But then if you're like me, what I'm doing with my kiddos, so I've got a kindergartner and a preschooler, okay? So like young kids. So with that situation, she meets with her teacher who's in her classroom, just basically meeting online, like a Zoom call. So we kind of want to, which is obviously going to be very different. I'm not in charge of the curriculum, but I just help facilitate the work and stuff.
And there's different pressures, right? So, and I've felt that before too. And I want you to know that, like, everybody knows I'm a little bit of a spontaneous, no structure person, but what I did with homeschool is I chose to go with a charter, which is a public school kind of homeschool hybrid, which is actually kind of similar to distance learning. The difference is that I'm accountable to a teacher once a learning period, which a learning period is 6 weeks. And Polly and all of you who are experiencing distance learning through school are accountable to a teacher every day. And that's hard, right? Like, it's good because you have somebody that's guiding you, but you guys are trying, like, we're here to help you because you're trying to be mom, teacher, and helping your kids' teacher. Like, it's a lot, man. There's a lot of demand on the parent. Like, it's so much, and there's so much on the teacher too. I don't want to take that from them. They're doing this for the first time.
They're like the nurses back when COVID first started.
Right, totally. I mean, they are in complete triage mode, and because parents have so much pressure, the demand on the teacher and the communication between the teacher and the parents has like double, tripled. I know I was chatting with a girlfriend who teaches 10th grade, I believe, and she said that she wouldn't get emails from teachers until about 3 months in. Her email inbox was full day one.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
So everybody's adjusting here. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to bring to this conversation my experience with a combination of traditional and homeschooling distance learning, which gives me an edge to helping you guys. And then Polly's going to come to you with the experience of having been experienced distance learning. What's amazing to me is, Holly, I did not know you were homeschooled. So you have, this is why this girl, man, she blows my mind. Like literally blows my mind. I was at her house a week before school started, and she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to turn this space into a homeschool room, like to a schooling room. And I was like, it's a great idea. And I felt like that was an extra step of almost like, I know you don't want to homeschool necessarily, but that's kind of like, that's totally a homeschoolish thing to do, which I now have context over why you would do it. But that's why you were able to get in context. This woman decided she was going to have a schoolroom. And I kid you not, we went from bare walls to a gallery wall with trays and color coordinated things within a matter of 3 days. Kid you not. Like, and I told her, like, take a picture of that and share. She's like, it's not ready. I'm like, whatever you're doing right now is like on a scale of 1 to 190. And I have been homeschooling my child for her entire career. She's going into 3rd grade, and mine's about a 20 compared to that. So you
Okay,
guys,
well, stop the comparison game right now.
It's not. I'm just saying your organizational skills and the fact that you were homeschooled in that experience, like you guys have a plethora of knowledge here. You have everything you need in this podcast episode to be successful with schooling at home.
I hope so.
They do.
So we want to give you just our top tips for success, because whatever schooling at home looks like for you this year, we know that intentionality and a little organization, a little time blocking, a little rhythm setting is really going to aid in your success big time. Okay. So you go ahead with this first one, Nicole.
Okay. So as a mom, it's really, really important to connect with your teachers and educators. You guys, this is a team effort. Like, she's new to it, you're new to it, the kid's new to it. Like, and imagine the struggle of this child trying to distinguish between you're my mom, you're my teacher, you're making me do my homework, but 24/7. Like, this whole relationship is under construction. And so communicating with your teachers what's working and what isn't is so important to getting this right, because they need that feedback too. You have to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you have to decide, like, as you're going through this process, what am I willing to do? What am I not willing to do? And making that clear to them, but while showing the teacher and your kid that you are a team player.
Yes.
Depending on the demands of your work and your home, you may or may not be able to do all that they're asking you, or you may be able to do more and help in different ways and provide feedback that allows you to still be mom. Remember, we have to protect our homes and our relationships with our kids through this process. Like, do not let this process destroy your relationship with your child, because it doesn't have to be. And remember that you get the privilege to have a front row seat to your child learning in ways that maybe you never did. So
that's beautiful, because that was me all last week and today. So speaking of these relationships that are so special, our families. Okay, my first tip that I just have to say, because this happened today: if you're gonna yell at your kids, make sure you're on mute, dude.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was like awkward. Like, I just heard this mom totally yelling at
I'm so glad it wasn't you. I didn't know where this story was going. I thought it was you.
No, it wasn't me, but it was just this. I get the pressure. And I mean, anytime you yell at your kids, it's because you're kind of under pressure, right? Because you know, either your mind's on something else, and then more noise is happening in another area. Sorry, I shouldn't turn my head from the mic. And it's just really, you know, think about to any time you've ever lost it on your kids. So, and I can relate to it, though. So, you know, Audrey's first day at school, and all of a sudden I was very aware at how much Millie talks, because we all needed to be quiet while she was on her Zoom call. And I was like, holy cow,
I've
Millie,
worked at your house. I know how much
you
Millie talks.
have not shut your mouth once. Like, she's even sitting here working on little foam beads, stringing them on a shoelace, and she just is babbling. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to remove you from the situation. But I could see, like, this mom was yelling to her kid that they were being bad in the background while the kindergartner was on the TV or on the Zoom call. And I was like, oh, dang. Like, so with that said, a tip for you is to just, if that is happening to you and you've got one kid on a Zoom call, you're trying to keep the other kids quiet, you're trying to just orchestrate everything, just give yourself so much grace and know that the
Mhm.
teachers are giving you grace, and just, forgive yourself for it not running perfectly, because it's not going to, and just communicate and connect with the teachers. We decided right at the beginning that we were going to be our teacher's biggest cheerleader. They've got a huge job ahead of them. We
Mhm.
decided, we're going to send her messages that we're praying for her. On the first day of
Mm.
school, we took her Chick-fil-A for lunch. We're like, we are going to cheer her on this year, because she's basically being asked the impossible and is achieving it, and we are going to stand by her side.
Mhm.
And when I will say, like, when you kind of get on the teacher's good side too, when they're more apt to
Help.
help you out,
Mhm.
when you work together as a team, instead of it being this, sorry, I gotta work, I can't help you,
Mhm.
so
I think it's really important, and I don't know if this is one of the tips that we had, but I happened to be with Polly on orientation day, or the day that um, we picked up materials for her daughter, and I think that managing expectations in this season is so important, and remembering that it's a season.
mhm,
So just look at it as a time of discovery, and kind of just deciding how you want school to look for your family moving forward. And remember that this is temporary, and it's okay to, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, it's okay to grieve the loss of your child's first day of kindergarten.
mhm,
Well, however you imagine that to look, it's okay that it didn't look that way. And I'll say to our audience, probably what I said to you that day is that Audrey gets 2 first days of kindergarten.
mhm,
She gets the one that was virtual, and then there will be a day where she is in person in a classroom, and that gets to be another first day that's really special. So
yeah, it will be.
try to frame your mindset as you're going into this of flexibility, minimum expectations, but when there are expectations, making them be very clear
Mhm,
for the child, for the student, for the child, for the parent, for the teacher,
yeah,
that whatever expectations are clearly communicated to everyone, I think is so, so important.
totally. So a next tip is to, we kind of want you to set up a rhythm, okay? And one of the first things that you can do to do that is to set up a designated space and time for school. And this is going to look different from everyone. You might have like a Pinterest perfect wall, gallery wall,
Polly does.
or you might have desks in their bedrooms. I mean, it's whatever is going to work for you. I will say, I'm into Pinterest. I'm into gallery walls. I'm into setting that kind of stuff up. So for me, it's fun to organize a space like that. Okay? I don't do it because I see other moms on social media posting their Pinterest perfect learning spaces. Okay? I do that for me. It's for me.
I know,
I put
I'm trying
things up
to
there.
convince you to post it. Yeah.
I put things up there so that I can feel more peace and whatnot. So my plan, I'll share with you what my plan is, but no, it's gonna look different for you. So I was like, hey, we're gonna do this distance learning thing. It suddenly like came to me that it was real, and I had like a week to prepare. So
I
I
was
was
there.
like,
I witnessed the
dining room.
realization.
Yeah. Dining room is the only place we don't regularly go, like our formal dining room. So I was like, I'm going to turn the formal dining room into the learning area. So I told the kids, I prepared them, and I said, and you can still do this even though school started. I prepared them and said, we're going to turn this area into the learning area. There are going to be special norms that we follow in this learning area. And then I started just getting stuff, like putting stuff on the gallery wall, got a cork board for their artwork and whatever. I've got a picture of Jesus. I got, a letter board, a calendar for the school year, made it look all cute, whatever. then I brought up just some toys for my preschooler to be able to play with while, and by toys, I mean like learning toys, like fine motor skills, preschool type activities that she could do while my kindergartner was going. And so we have rules, and they are established. Like if you want to get something out, you can bring a bin to the table, work on that activity. You may not get another bin out until that one's cleaned up, put away, right? It's very like different
Preschool.
from the rest of the house. It's
Yeah.
very like, you know, you come
Order.
in here, Audrey, you grab your bin for school, and then you set up your workspace, and then you've got these assignments, and I kind of walk her through the assignments and whatnot. And then when it's done, we clean up and we leave the room, and we don't really go back in there during the day. So it's
Good.
very like, this is the
Compartmentalized.
designated space. This is where school's going to be. And, you know, whatever that looks like for you, just having a designated space and time. You know, Audrey knows I've actually even told my girls that I'm getting them up at 7:30 so they can be on time for school, which I usually just let my kids sleep, but I'm doing this on purpose and having them go through their morning routine, which we're going to talk about in just a second, and we've discussed, I think, in an earlier podcast, but I have them go through their big five, get all the way ready for school, and you know, they show up for school like dressed for the day. They're not just staying in their pajamas all day, right? We're making it a thing. We're making it something.
Well,
but
it's going to be a really easy, make for
Yeah.
a really easy transition back to normal school if that's what happens. So we actually yesterday I bought a big, huge clock that has numbers and the tick marks for our schedule, like our school schedules.
Love it.
So they're going to learn to tell time. That's kind of the season that my 6-year-old's in. And they're going to know what to expect. So I'm creating, I didn't do it yet because I just found the whiteboard, but I'm going to have the times on there, and they're going to be able to tell the time. The time is right in the middle of our house. Like it's a huge clock. It's 26 inches, and they can learn to tell time and know what time it is and the rhythm of things. So
that's so
really,
awesome.
really good.
The other thing is, I really suggest, I know Nicole can echo on this, is to just get school done as soon as possible.
Yes.
So, like for example, my kiddo schedule, because it's online learning, and Nicole can speak to this with the homeschooling piece, is she's got a call at 9. Her teacher posts her assignments at 8. So what I'm doing is at 8 o'clock, I'm looking at the assignments and I'm writing them down for the day in her little planner, because we're planner people. And I basically, she looks at the planner. I say, these are the assignments you have to do today. Your Zoom call starts in 20 minutes. And I'm trying to start teaching her some time management. You could choose to play with Legos for 20 minutes, or you could get an assignment done before school starts. Then by the time school's all the way done, like by the time your last meeting's over, you can be done for the day and have free time. So
this is the beauty of homeschool, by the way, that you can just be done.
Yes. So that's what I teach her. I say, okay, let's do an assignment before your Zoom call. You do your Zoom call. We do the assignments in between the second Zoom call, and then it's over at 11:45, and she's done. You know, it's not this long, drawn out, long day. Now it's going to look different for teenagers. I know some teenagers have to be in front of their Chromebooks all day long. You know, it's different, but just get it done as soon as you can.
Yeah. And it's funny because seeing how much you can get done with your kids in this short amount of time, people are going to be less tolerant when we go back to school that the kid was just in school for 6 hours and then had 2 hours of homework. That's ridiculous.
It really is ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And so, but I think parents will see what an influence and how, I mean, I want to know your experience. Like, is it so neat to see your child learning and like be side by side with her while she's able to do that?
So what I've done, because basically I just say it's school time, so we all go sit at the table, and Millie comes and goes as she please because she's living in her own world like at all times. And I have my computer, so I'm working on tasks that I can do while being interrupted. So that's a business tip for you. So if you're trying to get work done while your kid is doing school, plan the activities that are kind of more mindless, like maybe editing scheduling photos. Specific posts or editing photos. Yes, exactly. I did that today. So little things that you can do, writing quick emails, you know, plan that little stuff in those times where you can be interrupted. So, and then Audrey's just on her little Zoom call, and I'm sitting there listening to her, and she looks at me to answer the question. Like the teacher asked a question, and she looks at me for the answer, and I go, I'm not telling you the answer. Like, think about it, you know? And so it's kind of fun to just watch her learn and pay attention. Oh, you know what? Here's another tip that's actually good. So I don't know about your kids, but my kids struggle to just sit and pay attention to something. And something that I have done my entire life is doodle
Yes.
and note take. If I'm listening to a long presentation, I'm not just sitting there captivated. Like, I have a notebook, I'm doodling, I'm coloring, taking notes, something. There's people have those adult coloring books, right? And I've
Yeah.
heard people say, like, oh, I can sit there and if I'm trying to listen without doing anything, my mind wanders. If I sit there and color a coloring page, I can listen to the whole thing and get so much out of it. So first day of school, Audrey's like, I'm bored. This is boring. I'm bored. And like, she was fidgety, did not want to sit still. The next day, I just turned on her Zoom call and I plopped a coloring page and some crayons right in front of her. She colored the entire time. And I was watching her. She was paying attention. Like, the teacher would say, put your thumb up, and she'd put her thumb up. And she would, one time she
Yep.
got forgotten. Like, she went through the whole roll call and she wasn't called. And she unmuted herself and she's like, you forgot me. And it's like, she was totally paying attention while coloring. Another video, I had her string the foam beads. If you need an activity for little kids, buy a bunch of foam beads. Just go to Amazon, foam beads and shoelaces. Just, it is an activity that kids love to do.
Well, I will say that absolutely 100% there's data that shows, and in traditional school, a lot of times they're like, don't be, what are you doing? What are you doing? When people would be drawing, when really it would help them. And so find the things that work for your kids. I just love that parents that even will continue traditional school in the future can see some of the benefits of being flexible to your children's needs, and that this is a huge opportunity for your children to get as much as they can without you being the teacher, a custom learning experience that really does cater to their strengths and who they truly are. And you may be able to give, especially if you have children that are get in trouble for talking and playing and stuff, finding these things that work for them, and then empowering yourself as your child goes back to school to say, hey, this is what my kid needs, and it's okay. You know what I mean? I think that teachers will learn a lot too about how to be better teachers and show up for their kids as well.
Love it. So another thing, and I've kind of talked about this a little bit, but if you have other kids, include them. So if you've got younger kids, another quick tip is plan a designated snack time and potty time.
Ooh, yeah.
In between calls, because I noticed with my kiddo, like, she said to the teacher, pause it, I have to go potty.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, she's not going to pause it for you. Like, you're just going to have to go and miss it. So and so then that was kind of a lesson, but I hadn't told her to go potty before or anything. So now I'm suggesting, you might consider going potty before your Zoom call. So that way, if you have to go during it, you don't have to pause it at all. And
it's a really good learning opportunity too, Polly. And when you talked about teaching your kids time management, and what we've been doing, like when I made my schedule, it was with potty breaks, because children can use, just like bedtime. Guys, think about bedtime. How does bedtime go? I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I need to pee. All these things are just excuses, and they will show up in school time. So make sure you make margin and you empower them. And this is what the Big Five is about, and we'll talk about it. But really, it is giving your children a choice so that they have to feel the consequences. This isn't a punishment. They literally get a choice. And so I say, okay, now is your 5 minutes between activities. This is your time to go pee, to get a snack, to get water, to do what you need to do, itch your face, whatever it is that you need to do.
Pick your nose.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you need to do. And then we're going to start school. Like, do the same thing with your kids. Like, give them that margin, give them that structure, that they have a 5-minute buffer to make a decision and then own their decision.
Love it. Yeah, okay. So the other thing is just kind of, as I was saying, include your children. If you've got other kids and they're younger, just invite them to come. I mean, today Millie was dancing along to some song Audrey was listening to, so just kind of including them or that sort of thing. Another business tip here, though, is I know it's hard, especially for moms who work from home and who are trying to work their business. And they're feeling this pull and this struggle, like, how am I going to do this and this and this? It's really stressful. And I experience that same stress. you kind of just have to learn how to pivot. So before, I used to work my business in the morning, like right in the morning. I would take Audrey to preschool before she was in kindergarten. Then I'd go to the YMCA. I'd drop my kiddo in kids club, and I would go to the lobby and I would work in the morning while Audrey was gone. And it actually took me some time to be like, oh, maybe I should work my business in the afternoons now, you
Right.
know? And just having that mindset switch of, okay, I'm going to be pretty present during Audrey's school. I will plan the mosquito tasks, as I like to call them, the little tasks that you can just get done really quickly that just kind of buzz in your ear, that you can be interrupted while you do them. So I plan to do those during her school, so that way I can be present and help her. And then when Millie goes down for her nap, I just set Audrey up with a little, I call it strategic screen time. Save the screen time for
Yes.
when you need
Leverage
it.
it.
Okay?
Yes.
And screen time, as in my opinion, as long as they're watching something educational, like Audrey has learned amazing stuff from PBS Kids. So, save your screen time for when you need it. And oftentimes I'll sit there and work next to her and just be near her and say, okay, I'm going to work while you do this or whatever. So that's a good thing, is to just kind of still show your kid you can spend time with them versus just taking them, setting them up with a screen and hiding in a closet to work your business. Like, include and involve your family too.
It's so interesting that you mentioned this whole switch on things. Today was our first day of our school routine, and I took over breakfast. And I was up, and my daughter's like, I'm tired. And we're like, no, like, go to bed earlier then. Like, and she has struggled through the day. But I'll tell you what, my kids started the day with such a great attitude. So happy that daddy was outside working out, doing his thing, which I made him also wake up early. And then I was there to make breakfast. I feel so much better as a mom, just connecting with my children first thing in the morning. And then I feel like I can bookend it with our evening, whatever our evening routine is. But I made them breakfast. I set them down for a devotional. And I just feel like we started out the day right. And now I'm doing this part of my work in the afternoon, and it's fine. Like, it actually feels better. I feel like it actually has been a blessing. So I did have to also switch that.
It can be really hard to be really present with your children when you are so focused on productivity and the things that you need to get done. But just don't forget that, your worth and your success does not come by how much you get done in a day. It comes with who you're connected to.
Yes.
So don't forget those relationships throughout this process. The connection, even though sometimes just sitting and snuggling or going on a walk or whatever together, watching your kids ride bikes or even playing with your kids or whatever it is, date night with your husband, it might not feel like you're doing something by nurturing a relationship, but please know that you are.
Okay. So on the other end of that spectrum, because this is why God brought us together, Polly and I, because we can offer perspectives from both ends. Do not let relationships and guilt rule over you so that you are not consistent and productive in your business. Because you can find every reason to put a relationship first and never get anything done. And I'm going to give you an example. This transition is hard for children. It's hard. The parents are struggling, the teachers are struggling. We talked about this, but they're going to have emotional moments and things. What I've noticed with kids is that when they're struggling with it, it materializes in a different way. My 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old, was acting like a 3-year-old today, crying like she needed a nap because she's not used to not doing whatever she wants. And so I had a thing of work that I had already blocked out for an hour, which wasn't happening. And so I literally took that time to just lay by her and let her say, this is hard. Now, I already had that time blocked off for something that did not happen. So rather than shoving another productivity thing in there, I just went and sat with her because she needed it. And get everybody on board and work and everything, letting them know, look, I'm in a transition week with school. So maybe you're coming off of a break. I mean, I don't know when you're listening to this, but if you're in that moment where you're in the transition, communicate with everybody what's going on. but do not continue to make excuses, and show your children that you have boundaries within your work and without your work, and that they are important when they need to be, but it's all about keeping your commitments. So
Absolutely. And just tonight when we were getting ready to film this, my daughter came in and was crying for mommy snuggles. And it's like, Daddy's going to snuggle you today. You know, I had this planned and I didn't feel so bad because it wasn't like I neglected her at all during the day, you know? So it's kind
right.
of like you can know, I really feel like when you're connected with the Lord, um, you can really know and be led by the Spirit if you need to stop in that moment and go with that child, or if
Mm-hmm.
you can say no. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
you're connected, you can know when to say an inspired no, because when you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to something else, right? And when you're
Right.
saying yes to something, you're saying no to
And if
something.
you
So,
think they don't know that, they do.
yeah. Yes. So, you know, really being connected and connecting with your people throughout the day just to know where they're at, you know, is very, very important.
So something that'll make you feel more like make better use of the time that you are connecting with your children, if you're trying to balance all of this, is by really tailoring their learning experience to help them spend more time on the things that they're interested in and their strengths. So they may
Mm-hmm.
have an assignment. So let's say that it's to draw a picture and write a story. This is a great example. And your child has a bent towards art. Give them that space. Get them something, like allow them to use paints, like let them explore that part of it, so that the hard part, which is maybe writing the story, is there's less attention on it and you just get it done. So just trudge through the hard things and then give extra special care and extra attention to the things that are bent towards their strengths and their interests.
I love that. Um, Another thing is, you know, yeah, we're all social distancing, but I'm pretty sure everybody has people they're not social distancing from.
I do. You're one of
So
them.
plan yourself, organize some field trip Fridays. That's what we're doing. Fridays are a little bit more lax over here, so we're going to do some field trips and get together with friends, so your kids can get together with other kids, so you can see other parents, you know, connect with others, plan, be intentional, and plan time with those who you love to spend time with.
Love it. So another thing that you can do, a tip from a homeschool mom, is to infuse learning into everyday activities. So if you are trying to homeschool or you're trying to do this distance learning, take it to the next level, man. Just make your family, we call it learning in a family environment. That's the name of our co-op, is Life. And so finding something that everybody can kind of get into is really, really, really helpful. So when you're baking, you can learn numbers and measurements. You can take turns doing teamwork. You can learn a little bit about science. You can learn a little bit about homemaking. Like, use the activities. It really creates this family environment in the home, and then learning becomes natural. It doesn't feel like it's a chore. And I love what Polly said about, this is the learning time, but that will give them permission and kind of, it will allow them to say, okay, I'm learning, I'm just going to stay focused. And then that you can continue the learning experience into your home, but without them having them develop a love for learning. So it's not just a chore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, totally. And even when you are doing anything maybe gospel related, like you're trying to have more devotionals, like that's kind of the one of the fun things about um having your kids be at home with you is you can really take teaching faith into your own hands.
Yes.
And so the other day I was trying to, I had just read this really great story in scripture and I was trying to dumb it down for our kids. And my husband goes, "Can I teach it?" I was like, "Sure." He brings out the Star Wars Legos and starts making parallels
I love it
with
so
the
much.
Legos and
Oh,
the figures, and my kids were enthralled, and I'm like, this is a great way to teach scripture stories, you know? So
yes.
things like that where you can make it fun, because that's a big deal, making things fun for kids. They, if you're just like nagging, it's going to be hard to get them to complete stuff. But when you make it fun, let them be your helpers, or you know, involve them, it kind of changes the game a bit.
Okay, I want to call all you parents out, and I also want to say how the gospel of homeschool heart is like just gleeful, just so happy, because it takes people like a lot of intentionality and actually thinking about it to process this, but I want to challenge you. Okay.
All right.
If you're a distance learner, and Polly, you're not get guilty of this because you just have this family mentality and you do this naturally. But I want you to see that you have farmed out the responsibility for your children to learn about faith and learn things in school to the teacher and to the Sunday school teacher.
Right.
Your children will own their own faith and they will learn best when it is you who is reinforcing it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lesson to be had on Sundays for 1 hour, but the practicality of it and the way it gets into their heart is using it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with. So just take responsibility that the lesson itself that's given by the teacher, the Sunday school teacher, whoever the leader is just the beginning. It is your job to water that seed and to make it grow.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we want to encourage you to do, is to take this into your own hands and to really develop this no matter what school looks like in the future, to have a culture of learning and love and faith in your family.
I love that. Okay, well, we always give a tip. Today's intentional practice.
Yes.
So today's intentional practice, what we want to do is to just encourage you to take one of the things that we've talked about today, whether it's setting up a designated space or maybe planning a field trip Friday, or kind of thinking through your day and how you can incorporate some learning or whatever it looks like for you, even if it's sitting down and writing down a schedule for you guys, or having a family meeting and just kind of planning out the week. Implement one of these things. You might go all in and do all of them, or even just one of these things might have been really good for you. So we just want to encourage you to pick one thing and implement it intentionally into your life. So Nicole, do you want to pray for us?
Yes, I do. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of family and just that we have this opportunity to be closer together. May we take this season and enjoy it for what it's worth. Maybe we find the ways to support the teachers that are in our lives, whether it's through distance learning or just support around us. May we embrace this time and find your will in it. And may our children grow to love learning. And may we become active participants in their journey to learn who it is that you've called them to be. And may they draw closer to you through the process. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
And that's a wrap.
It's Polly and Nicole here. We want to thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Yes, and we would love to join in community with you, link arms with you.
So be sure to check out the description with a link to our website, where you will find lots of resources to take your mom life and business to the next level, and a link to our group.
Yeah, so if you like what you heard, definitely leave a comment below and subscribe. We love hearing what you thought.
And until next time, bathe it in grace.